Hello my lovelies, I'm back with yet another playthrough for you. This run is of Yggdrasil. This is a purely cooperative game, very much in the vein of Pandemic, alright, but with a really beautiful theme sort of layered on top of Norse mythology. My husband is a big fan of that, and so I picked this game up for him, and we do play it. We do enjoy it quite a bit. It's an older game. It's been around for a while. And the reason I thought I would demo this particular game is because if you're like me, probably I'm thinking your game shelf is full and your pocketbook is empty from buying all of these great games. But what's neat about Yggdrasil is that it is available on the iPad. So this game will run you about 40 bucks, right? If you get it on the App Store, it's only $5.99. And as far as I can tell, it plays the same as the board game. It's just as much fun. Okay, you don't get to, feel the dice in your hands and count out your tokens, but it's pretty much the exact same game for a much smaller price tag. So I thought I would run through this and show you how it plays. So if you want to get it for the table or for your iPad, either way, you'll have a new game under your belt. All right. Like I said, it's very similar to Pandemic. You're just trying to survive sort of a wave of enemies that's attacking Asgard. And if you can withstand their attack, you'll save the day. So let me open up, get set up, and show you how Yggdrasil plays. Asgard is under attack, and there are 6 villains who have aligned together to besiege the great tree. All right? And these villains are represented in this villain deck. The point of the game is to survive this deck. All right, so every turn we'll be drawing one of these evil forces, and if we can get through this entire villain deck and still be alive, we will win the game. So who exactly is in here? Let's see, we've got Hel, okay? She is, I believe, the goddess of the underworld, and all of these villains have special abilities, and hers deals with the souls in the underworld, and I'll show you how that works. All right. Next up, we have Surt. He is a fire god, and so he leads his kin, the fire giants, into battle. Jormungand. Pronunciations optional. Jormungand. He is a giant serpent who dwells in the oceans around Midgard, and he'll interfere with us in the water. All right. Fenrir. Let's see. This guy, he is the wolf. All right, an enraged wolf that will terrorize us. And he has a very tricky power that we have to keep our eye on. I guess he was once chained by the gods and is now free and looking for vengeance. Here we go. Nidhogg. All right, this is another serpent who dwells beneath the tree and feeds on its roots with his poison. Nasty, nasty guys. Ah, yes, and Loki. He is the father of Hel, Fenrir, and Jormungand. And of course, he is the ultimate trickster. All right. So these 6 cards will come up in this deck. There are 7 of each of these. All right. So you're going to shuffle these up and turn one over every turn. And that's the villain we sort of have to face for that particular round. Now, similar to Pandemic, we can increase the difficulty of this game in 2 ways. First, you can add what are called the enraged enemy cards, and you'll see here that the lightning is sort of shooting around the back of these cards. And what these do is you replace them one for one, right? So we can enrage, heal. So we would take out one of her normal cards and replace it for this one. And what this one says is that when we pull this particular villainess, she's going to move faster, right? She's enraged, she's going to charge us, making it much harder to deal with her. There's only one of each of these. And you can replace as many as you wish, all right? The second way we can increase the difficulty of this game is to play using Ragnarok, all right? And what these cards do, you don't replace anything. You would just shuffle these directly into your villain deck. And the game recommends that you stagger them, because if these come up back to back, you'll be defeated immediately. Okay, so sort of like Pandemic. Let's say we want to play with 2 Ragnarok cards. I would divide the deck in half, shuffle one into this half, one into this half, and then pile them up and go. So I know I have a little bit of time between these Ragnarok cards, and what they're going to do is they're going to enrage a group of enemies, all right? We won't just be battling one at a time. If one of these cards pop up, we'll be battling, well, not battling, but having to deal with 4 of them moving at one time. Exceedingly wicked little cards. So just for this gameplay, just so you can see how it works, because I don't want to be immediately defeated, I think I'll shuffle in one of these Ragnarok cards, and I will pick one of these randomly, replace it, and shuffle this in, so we can get one enraged enemy and one Ragnarok. All right, so these are the enemies. This is the deck we're going to have to survive through. Who are the heroes? Let's look at them next. Who are the heroes? Who are the gods that we get to inhabit for this game? Well, of course, we have to have Odin and his son, Thor. All right. Now, we also have at our disposal the siblings, Frey and Freya. And of course, Heimdall, who was one of the guardians of Asgard, and Tyr. Now, this is the god who chained the wolf Fenrir. He lost his hand doing it, but he still is a mighty warrior that we can have on our side. And in this game, interestingly enough, it plays up to 6 people. The more people you play with, the harder this game gets. All right? I'm not exactly sure why that is, but it's something I've definitely found out. If you play 1 character, it's easier. If you're playing 6, man, this is a crazy hard game. So I think we'll just play 2. Let's just pick 2 of these guys. And that's about all my brain can handle anyway. I'll just give them a good little shuffle here. And we'll go for the random method. Just like Pandemic, each of these gods has their own special ability that we'll be able to tap, and some of them do combo better than others. But just for giggles, let's go with Thor with this hammer. His special ability is that he's better at combat. That makes sense. And Father Odin. All right, maybe I didn't shuffle as well as I thought. He has wisdom on his side, so he is able to look ahead. So we're going to have the ability to see what's coming and hopefully attack it. So this is a game of father and son, Odin and Thor, against the united forces of Loki and friends. All right, let's set up this beautiful board, and I'll show you how to get started playing this game. Look at this beautiful board. I just love the artwork in this game. I thought I saw somewhere that the artist, the illustrator who did Yggdrasil also did ghost stories. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's these really rich, deep colors. There's no words on this board. There's no words on the cards or our heroes. Everything is represented through symbols. And at first that can be a little confusing, but once you start playing it, the symbols make total sense. So what's the heart of this game? Really, it happens right here on the tree of Yggdrasil, all right? And in the middle of the board, right here on the tree, this is where our enemies are lining up, all right? And they are standing outside the gates of Asgard, and they're trying to work their way past our defenses to Odin's house. And if they can get through our defenses, we will lose the game, okay? And of course, with most of these games, there's more than one way to lose. So let me zoom in just on this middle banner here and talk about our defensive posture for this game. Here are the 6 enemies we face, and they're going to start out here on the very edge of the tree. And at the beginning of every round, we're going to turn over 1 card. And that's going to tell us which of these evil gods is advancing. And all we're going to do is take the corresponding token, move it 1, and resolve their special power. All right? Go into that in just a minute. But what I want to show you is that this pathway to Odin's house is divided into different sections. Okay? If at any time we get 5 enemies that breach right here, the wall of Asgard, we will lose the game. So as these guys progress, if at any point we get 5 of them past this dotted line, the game is over. All right? So we're trying to keep them back here. Some of them are going to get through though. No matter what we do, it's going to happen. So our next rallying point is going to be right here. Okay? And this is the door of Valhalla, this little entry. And if 3 enemies make it past the door of Valhalla, past this dashed line, we will again lose the game. All right? But that might happen. Some enemies might slip past us, heading for Odin's house. And all we need is 1. All we need is 1 enemy to be across that line at the end of our turn to lose the game. So this is the heart of the game, and we need to keep our eye up here, watching these strategic blocking points and making sure we're pushing these enemies back, all right? Because if any of them meet the 5, 3, or 1 requirement by the end of our turn, the game is over, okay? So all these guys start here, and every turn, 1 or more, depending on what happens, is going to move forward, step by step by step. We'll have a chance to battle them and push them back. There will be some combat, don't you worry, but we need to keep our eye up here. All right? The second thing you're going to notice is that there are little numbers down below, 5, 6, 7, 8. As our enemies advance, they become stronger, and it becomes harder and harder to defeat them in battle. Here, outside the walls of Asgard, they're only a strength of 5. But if they make it past Asgard, they up to a 6. And if they make it past the gate, they're in a 7. And in Odin's house, they reach an 8. In addition, you'll notice some lightning bolts, and that's going to also dictate their strength, not of their base attack, but the strength of their special ability. Up here, before the walls, their special abilities are not that strong, but once they're over the walls, we're up to 2 lightning bolts. If they're through the gate, they're up to 3. Luckily, in Odin's house, they don't have a special ability. Hopefully, no one will get this far. But again, these special abilities are what are listed here on the bottom of the cards, all in symbols, right? And so you take their ability and you multiply it by the number of lightning bolts you have in play. Really simple to do. I think I'll save that to gameplay. It's one of those things that once you see it, all questions will be erased. So this is where the battles happen. The rest of this tree, well, the rest of this tree are different areas that we can visit, that we can either gather some resources or recruits, or maybe battle some secondary enemies that might be messing with us elsewhere. So let's shoot back out again and talk about the other areas of this board that we're going to be able to interact with. The first place we can go is up here in the corner, and this is the land of the elves. And the elves are our allies in this game. And so to set up the elven lands, we're going to take the number of players plus 1, all right? And that's how many elven warriors will be available to us in the game. So we'll stick them up here. And on your turn, for 1 action point, you can visit the land of the elves and recruit a warrior to your cause. Now these elves are incredibly strong. What they allow you to do is they will add plus 1 to your combat against either the evil gods or maybe a frost giant or whoever you're combating. The elves will add a plus 1 bonus after you roll the combat dice. That's important because if we're trying to battle, let's say Loki here, and we need a 5-point combat value, and we only manage to roll 4, we can commit our elf after the battle to bring our total up to 5. When we do that, the elf returns to his elven land where he can then be re-recruited. All right? You can have as many of these elves as you like. You can go to the land 3 separate times. It'll take 3 turns and recruit all 3 of these elves. Now, battling Loki, I only need to roll a 2 to win, right? But the joy of the elves is you commit them after battle. So I can wait and see how I roll before I decide how many of these elven warriors I'm going to ask to join me. Okay? Second place you can go is up here to the sacred lands. And in the sacred lands, we'll find the Vanir. And what he does, he has some really cool abilities that he can help us with. All right? So if we visit the sacred land, we can do one of 2 things. All right? We can either move the Vanir up the reinforcement track, or we can access the reinforcement track. And we can access the point the Vanir is on, as well as anything below it. And these are some really wonderful abilities. The lowest ability helps us with the Valkyries, which we'll see in a moment. The next ability lets us recruit 2 Vikings to help us fight. The third ability, this is a very nice one. We get to rearrange the first 6 cards of the enemy deck. One more space. This spot allows us to defeat 1 enemy token. We get to pick where it is on the board and move him back 1 section. All right. Now, this one, he defeats a frost giant. As soon as we use the Vanir's ability, right, we could, even if he's sitting at the top, we might decide we want Vikings. We can use this ability if we like. But as soon as we do, he falls back to the beginning of the sacred track. All right. So we can either pump him up or use where he is. These are very helpful, both of these are very helpful areas for us to battle, to visit, to help in battle. All right? Let's head to the bottom of the board and see what we find down there. Directly below the tree, we're going to find 3 more areas that we can access. All right? The first is this space, which represents the Dwarven Forge. And when you go to the Dwarven Forge, from 1 action, you're allowed to look through the weapons deck. Okay? And each villain has a corresponding weapon that will damage that particular god. So for example, this ring will add +3 combat against heal, and heal only. All right? Every evil spirit or god has a weapon associated to him. To Fenrir, it's the chains, right? And the way these weapons are acquired is you visit the Dwarven Forge, and the first thing you can do is pick any level 1 weapon you want. All right? So there's 6 of these, 1 for each god. So let's say I am particularly interested in battling Loki. I may take Hofund, this double-bladed axe, into my hand. All right. And now when I battle Loki, I'm going to be able to add 1 to my combat roll, so only works against Loki. It's the first type of action you can take with the Dwarven Forge. Now, we're allowed to have more than 1 weapon. All right. If we go back, maybe we'll pick up something for heal and veneer, and this will be our arsenal. Okay. Now, the other thing you can do when you visit the Dwarven Forge is if you have a +1 weapon, you may upgrade to a +2. So we can go back to the forge and have them maybe refine the enchantments on our chains. And all of a sudden now when we battle Fenrir, we're at a +2. This +1 chain, it goes back into the available pile of weapons. So someone else could come along and take it if they liked. All right. You're not allowed to have 2 of the same. So we can't have this for a total of +3. That's not allowed. We can only have one chain at a time for a +2. And you guessed it, we can go back once more to the Dwarven Forge if we like and upgrade that chain to a +3, returning the +2 one to the available weapons. All right. These are very, very handy, and making sure our team of heroes has a nice spread of weaponry is going to be key to defeating these evil forces. Okay? So it's very simple to get these weapons. You just pick them up, but it will take an action. So we'll leave them all stacked over here. Now, going straight across, the next thing that lives in this particular space are the frost giants. The frost giants are especially nasty giants who each have an ability as well as a color to them down at this bottom here. And you can, if you defeat the right set of frost giants, build a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Picture. Right? Is that all of them? I think there's 3 to each particular picture. And if you manage to complete a set of 3, if we're able to defeat these 3 frost giants or these 3 frost giants, we'll be able to invoke the power of this particular rune, this green rune or this black and gray rune. That'll give us some special abilities. So there's an incentive to defeat these guys, all right? These frost giants, when they come into play, will also wreak havoc upon us, so their abilities, once defeated, will be removed as well. Another incentive to make sure they don't build up on the board. And the way these frost giants are called into battle is by Loki. Every time we flip over a Loki card, he'll move up the track and he will call forth one of his fellow frost giants. Or, if he's in level 2, he'll call forth 2 frost giants, and if he's over here, he's going to call forth 3 frost giants. All right. So for now, we'll shuffle these up. I'll do a better job of that later, and stick them over here. And we can, for one action, either combat a frost giant who is revealed, or if we like, we can try and combat the top unrevealed frost giant. Right? If we're trying to complete these runes, we can go after a giant who hasn't even been revealed. All right. Now, I'll go into how we do that, how we battle them, but the little shorthand for it is written down below. All right. Cannot use any weapons against these guys. There's no weapons against them. The weapons, they're only for our primary foes. These little frost giants, we have to take out on our own. We can have our allies like the elves, but no special weaponry is allowed against them. We'll see that as we play. Now the last place we can go, and the place we will be visiting many, many times, is with the Valkyries down here on this little water track. And this represents Midgard. And what you can do in Midgard is recruit Viking allies. Remember, we can recruit those elven allies, but there's only 3 of them. we're going to need a lot more than 3 warriors fighting with us. And Midgard, with the Valkyries, that's how we're going to get our hands on them. All right? And down here in Midgard, there are 4 different islands: white, blue, green, and black. Okay? And the islands are represented by the color on our combat die. Okay? So each island matches a color, white being the blank side. All right? And what will happen if you decide to visit Midgard is you can, if you like, move the Valkyries, 1 island. All right? You can move them forward, or if you're sitting in the middle of some islands, you can move them back. All right? Move the Valkyries 1 to an adjacent island. If you want, you don't have to. If you're happy, let's say on Blue Island, you can pass on moving the Valkyries and stay on Blue Island. After you decide whether or not to move the Valkyries, you then get to recruit Vikings. Okay? And this is kind of a very fun part of this game. You recruit Vikings based on the island you're on. And that's represented by these little colored pouches. We have a white one for the white island, blue for blue, green, and black. Okay? And at the start of the game, we're going to seed these pouches with Viking allies and enemy fire gods. Okay? We don't know which one we're going to get. We're hoping for allies, but we might get some fire giants as well. And the rules tell us how to set these bags up. I went ahead and just wrote them on the bags because I'm not good at remembering rules. So at the start of the game, we placed 6 Vikings and 12 fire giants into the white bag. All right? This is the closest island we can get to. Unfortunately, it has the least amount of Viking allies in it. Next up is the blue island. Your chances here are better. It's even. We have 9 giants and 9 Vikings. If we push the Valkyries even farther to the green island, our odds suddenly start looking much better. We're up to 12 Viking allies and only 6 fire giants. And finally, the black island, if we can push the Valkyries far enough, will get us to the black bag, which hold 15 Viking allies and only 3 fire giants. All right? So there's an incentive, right, to get those Valkyries moving. And whatever island you end on, you take that bag, reach your little hand in there, and you're going to pull out some tokens. Okay? 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to look at them. All right. If they are Viking allies, we add them to our player card. If they are fire giants, they go back into the bag. And you'll see right away the havoc that ensues, because this bag now is no longer an equal amount of giants to Vikings. I removed 2. So now there are 7 Vikings and still 9 fire giants. So as we pilfer these bags for tokens, there's going to become less and less Vikings, and it's going to get harder and harder to pull allies. There's a way to refresh the bags, and I'll get to that in a moment, but for now just remember, whatever island you end on, that's the bag you pull from. You pull 3 tokens, return any giants, keep any Viking allies. You can peek in here if that's how you want to play the game. If you want to, it's, you know, there's nothing in the rules that says you can't, so you could count and see what your odds are. I personally like to try to remember, so for me, I don't allow peeking. I can try and keep count, odds are pretty good, I'm going to forget, but I think it adds to the level of fun if, as the game progresses, you lose track of what exactly is in this bag. Unfortunately, don't know if you guys remember or not, somebody lurks in the waters around the tree of Yggdrasil. That's right, Jormungand. Yep, he's living down here, and he's going to wreak havoc with us. Because what he does is he likes to attack islands. Okay. So at the start of the game, your Mungand, he's hanging out here on the black island. So while the Valkyries can travel to it, they'll be unable to access the black bag. And every time we pull him up, we're going to roll our little die, and whatever color it lands on, that's the island he is going to be at. And that island becomes inaccessible for the bag. Now, our Valkyries, they can still move to it. So if the Valkyries are on here, it's not like they sink or disappear. If we're, for instance, on the green island, we can move them 1. They can still land here, and the next turn, move them 1. But it basically takes one of the bags out of play. All right. So for now, the Valkyries will start here on the end of the rainbow, and the black island, the black token bag, is going to be inaccessible to us for pulling Viking allies. Why do you want these Viking allies? So, remember the elves? We committed them before battle. The Viking allies, the elves we committed after battle. Your Viking allies you must commit before battle. So if Loki's hanging up here, we need to roll a 6 to beat him. We don't have any weapons, and we're worried about making that. We can commit, before we roll, 3 Vikings to this battle. All right? That means we're going into the battle with a combat value of 3. Now when we roll this die, we're looking for a 3 to defeat him. We got it. Loki is driven back. All right. The problem with committing our units before the battle means, let's say Loki is now hanging here, and we only need a 5. We commit 3 and we roll a 3. Well, we overshot it. All right. At the end of the battle, all the Vikings that we've committed get discarded. Okay? And now you see the benefit of the elves. If we roll what we need, we won't bother committing the elves. We'll save them for another battle. But these little Vikings, they have to line up on the front lines before we roll. And they're lost no matter what the result is here. Okay? So we can recruit more of these, much more easier than the elves, but they're not quite as versatile as far as allies go. Okay? Middle of the board, 1 more section to go. The bottom of the board will find the last 3 areas we can visit. The Kingdom of Fire, the World of Darkness, and the World of the Dead. Sounds ominous, but don't worry, we can take care of this. All right, the Kingdom of Fire. This is where these fire giants live. And we start the game with 12 of them hanging out down here. And they're called into battle by Surt. All right, every time we flip a Surt card, his ability says to take a certain number of fire giants and put them into one of these Valkyrie bags. We're going to roll that dice to figure out which color bag these additional giants are going into. So he's going to make it harder for us to locate our Viking allies. The good news is we can be a little proactive here, and if we like, for one of our actions, we can come down to the Kingdom of Fire and battle these fire giants directly. And by battling the giants, it's pretty simple. We get to pick a bag, any bag we like. Maybe for this one we'll go for, the green bag, okay? It's got a lot of Vikings, it only has a few giants. Let's see if we can knock out some of these giants. And what we're going to do is we're going to take randomly 5 counters out of this bag. You have to kind of count with your fingers here. Let's see how I did. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to examine them. Any that are fire giants are defeated. And they're returned to the land, Kingdom of Fire. Any Viking allies we pulled will go back into that same colored bag. So it's a way to weed out these fire giants if they start to dominate a bag. All right, slide that back in. So we can do some battle, mitigate some of the bag numbers. Okay. This one down here, World of Darkness, it's very simple. If we visit the World of Darkness, we are allowed to trade allies with the other players, either elf tokens or Viking tokens. We can pass them as needed. Okay, World of the Dead. This is where all of the Vikings that we commit to a battle go after battle. This is basically the discard area for Viking souls. Don't worry, they're not out of play. The Viking souls do is we can visit the World of the Dead, all right? And we can add to the island bag of our choice 5 Vikings. So if one of our bags is getting depressingly low, only 6 sad little Vikings, we can visit the land of the dead, pick 5, up to 5. If there's less, you get less. But you take 5 and put them into this bag, all right? That would be one of our actions. Just a way to get these numbers up. Unfortunately, do you remember Heal, goddess of the underworld? She's not so happy about us coming down here and pilfering souls. So when her card gets turned up, her marker will move, and her ability says to remove a certain number of Vikings from the designated bag. All right? Another way that we can be thwarted. So these bags, these Valkyrie Island bags, these numbers are constantly changing, either because we're taking out fire giants and we're adding in Vikings, or because Cert and Heal are adding in fire giants and taking out Vikings. But these are our main allies for the game, so we have to pay attention to what's going on with these bags. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 places you can go on this board during your turn. And on your turn, you're allowed to do 3 things. All right? You cannot go to the same land twice. So I can't, for instance, go to the fire giants twice. All right? I can go to the fire giants once, maybe the land of the dead once, and then go up and do the Valkyries if I like. Or I might decide to battle Loki, pick up an elven ally, and go to the Dwarven Forge. Any 3 actions, as long as they're at a different location. And that's the game, in a nutshell. There's a lot of nuance in this, and since we are rolling, there's a little bit of luck. So let's see how we do on our game of Yggdrasil.